At the beginning of the story, we are shown an airport. There we see a pilot named Brad. He is hurriedly heading toward the plane while simultaneously talking to his daughter on a video call. His daughter says, "This morning, I watched the news. It was reported that the weather in the area you're heading to is extremely bad. Because of this, many other flights have been canceled. So you should also cancel your flight and come back home." But Brad smiles and responds, "I've flown in such weather many times before. I've safely flown planes in such weather before. So don't worry, I'll be back home soon." Hearing this, his daughter feels relieved and ends the call. After that, Brad enters the plane's cabin and meets the co-pilot. The co-pilot is a bit nervous because it's his first time flying a plane today. Just then, an air hostess comes and calls Brad outside. There, a police officer informs Brad that due to an emergency, he will have to take a criminal named Tony along with him. Tony is a very powerful and dangerous individual who is facing a murder charge, and now he will be taken to another country via the plane and put in prison for life. The police officer tells Brad, "We are entrusting you with this responsibility because you are a capable and sensible pilot." Brad agrees and seats Tony in the last row to ensure the other passengers are not disturbed. After that, all the passengers settle into their seats, and Brad goes to the plane's staff to confirm that all passengers have boarded. Following this, the plane takes off. After reaching cruising altitude, Brad puts the plane on autopilot and starts talking with the co-pilot about his family. Brad shows the co-pilot a photo of his daughter on his mobile phone and says, "I love my daughter so much, and in this world, we only have each other. There's no one else for us." Meanwhile, the passengers seated in the plane are enjoying their journey, but they were unaware that something terrible was about to happen to them soon. Both pilots sitting in the cabin were also happy, and the plane was flying normally. But suddenly, the weather turned bad, and the plane starts experiencing slight turbulence. This makes Brad uneasy because something doesn't feel right to him. He announces to all passengers to fasten their seatbelts and tries to contact the control tower via radio. However, he is unable to get through because, due to the bad weather, all radios in the area have stopped functioning. Suddenly, a powerful bolt of lightning strikes the plane, causing it to shake violently. Brad leaves the cockpit to check on the passengers. Upon seeing the passengers, Brad feels a bit relieved because all the passengers were safe. However, the lights in the plane were gradually starting to go out, and just then, the plane experiences several more jolts. As a result, Brad's head hits the ceiling in front of him, causing him to fall, and he sustains an injury on his forehead. Seeing this situation, the passenger's condition begins to worsen. Brad quickly returns to the cockpit and, along with his co-pilot, starts working to stabilize the plane. This was an extremely challenging time for them. Due to the bad weather, they couldn't see anything ahead. Brad says, "We need to bring the plane down because if it takes another jolt, the plane could be destroyed." They immediately start reducing the plane's altitude, and the plane begins descending rapidly. The passengers inside the plane were extremely frightened. Just then, the police officer accompanying the criminal, Tony, accidentally drops his mobile phone. To pick it up, he unbuckles his seatbelt. An air hostess, trying to help him, also unbuckles her seatbelt and moves forward. Now, because the plane was descending rapidly, this caused, as soon as their seatbelts were unbuckled, both of them were violently thrown upward and collided with the ceiling. They hit the ceiling with such force that they died instantly. Meanwhile, the plane had descended to a very low altitude, and somehow, the two pilots managed to regain control of the plane. However, the plane was now running low on power. Because of this, Brad realized he couldn't make it to an airport. So he decided to attempt a crash landing in the sea. But just then, the two pilots spotted an island in the distance. Following this, Brad steered the plane's direction toward the island and decides to land on the island. After facing many difficulties, Brad finally manages to perform an emergency landing on a road present on the island. Fortunately, during this emergency landing, all the passengers remain safe and unharmed, with no injuries. Just then, a short circuit occurs at the back of the plane, which makes Brad happy because it indicates there is still some electricity left in the plane. After all the passengers disembark, an air hostess informs Captain Brad that the police officer accompanying the criminal Tony has been killed, and one air hostess has also died. Hearing this, Brad becomes very disheartened. Meanwhile, the owner of the airline company notices that one of his planes has suddenly disappeared because he didn't see the plane land, and due to the radio being out of service for a long time, he hasn't been able to contact the pilot. Therefore, the airline owner calls a rescue expert named Scarsdale, who specializes in finding people trapped in difficult situations. The airline owner tells him, "I need all the details about my plane, such as where it went, what happened to it, where are the workers and all the passengers." After this, the rescue expert gets to work. Meanwhile, all the passengers were wondering why they had landed there. Brad gathers all the passengers and explains, "Due to an emergency, we had to land here. There's still a little bit of power left in the plane, which we will use to fix the remaining issues. Until then, please stay here calmly and don't panic. We will get out of here very soon." After this, Brad goes to the plane and starts working on repairing it. However, he notices that the plane's power is critically low, so they will have to wait for help. They take out a map and start trying to figure out their location to determine exactly where they are. Brad's co-pilot looks at the map and says, "We're stranded on a private island. This place is extremely dangerous. There are people here who don't follow any government or authority. If these people catch us, our lives could be in danger, and our government won't be able to save us either." Hearing this, Brad says, "Now, no matter what, we have to find a way to get our rescue team here. We have to call them somehow so they can come and rescue all of us, as this is the only way to get out of here." After this, the two start working on fixing the radio to call for help, but the radio is completely damaged due to the lightning strike. Brad then goes to the passengers and informs them, due to some malfunction, the radio isn't working, but don't worry. Brad reassures them saying, "We will go to the other side of the island to find a radio and inform the control tower of our location, so they can send a rescue team to save all of you. Will rescue all of you." Here, Brad takes a bold step. He says, "Tony will come with me." Saying this, he removes Tony's handcuffs. Brad then tells the co-pilot, "You focus on repairing the plane's power. I'll try to contact a rescue team and bring them here as soon as possible through any means of communication." After this, Brad and Tony set off toward the jungle to find a radio. On the way, Tony thanks Brad for trusting him. Now, we see a terrorist group living on this island. A man comes running to them, and that man informs the leader of the group that a plane has landed on the island due to an emergency, and there are many people on board from different countries. Hearing this, the group's leader gives the man some money and instructs his team to get ready. In the island's jungle, Brad and Tony are moving forward. Tony asks Brad, "Why did you free me, and where are you taking me now?" Brad replies, "Because I can't put everyone in danger because of you, and there's a dangerous terrorist group here, which you and I will have to face together." Then Tony tells Brad, "I come from a military background, and I've served in the US military for many years." A short while later, Tony's voice from behind suddenly stops. When Brad turns around, Tony is nowhere to be seen. He had escaped, freeing himself from Brad, and now Brad continues moving forward alone in the jungle. As he progresses through the jungle, Brad enters an abandoned factory where he finds a telephone. However, it's an old-fashioned telephone that is out of order, and Brad starts connecting the wires of the telephone attached to the side, and the telephone starts working. Brad quickly calls the company's helpline. He informs the helpline about his location and everything else. However, due to some disturbance in the line, his voice isn't reaching the person on the other end clearly. As a result, the helpline operator disconnects Brad's call. Then, Brad gets an idea. He calls his daughter and tells her to write down his location and all the details on a piece of paper and deliver it to her office. Just then, during the conversation, a man approaches from behind, attacks Brad, but Brad manages to overpower him with great difficulty and beats the man until he falls unconscious. Just then, Brad senses that another man is entering the room, so he quickly hides. However, the man turns out to be none other than Tony, who had killed several goons and taken their weapons. Tony calls out to Brad saying, "Don't be afraid, come out." When Brad steps forward, Tony hands him a gun for his protection. After that, when the two of them reach the lower floor of the factory, they find a camera. From the camera's recording and the passports lying there, they learn that the terrorists living on this island kidnap people and demand a large ransom from their families. Even when the kidnapped person's family pays the ransom, instead of releasing the person, these terrorists kill them. Seeing this, Brad realizes that their passengers are also in danger. After this, the two of them head outside and spot a vehicle. This vehicle belonged to the terrorist who had attacked Brad earlier, was killed by Brad. Now, both of them get into the vehicle parked outside and start heading toward their passengers. Meanwhile, all the passengers are waiting for Brad, hoping he will soon return with help. Just then, they hear the sound of a vehicle approaching. Hearing the vehicle, the passengers become happy, assuming that Brad has brought a rescue team for them. However, it wasn't a rescue team, but the terrorists living on the island. They start firing gunshots to scare the passengers. Brad and Tony also hear the sound of those gunshots had heard. After this, they increase the speed of the vehicle, trying to reach the plane as quickly as possible. The leader of the terrorist group demands the passenger list from the air hostess. Out of fear, the air hostess quickly hands over the list to him. Then, one of the gang members asks the co-pilot, "Where's your senior pilot?" The co-pilot replies, "He went into the jungle for some work, but he hasn't returned yet." Just then, Brad and Tony also arrive at the scene. However, they stay hidden and observe the situation from a distance. During this time, a woman tries to escape from there, but the terrorists shoot and kill her. Seeing this, Brad starts to move forward to help them, but Tony stops him and says, "Stay calm. It's not the right time to go." The gang leader forces all the passengers onto a bus, and he instructs two of his accomplices to stay behind, saying, "Go inside the plane and bring back anything valuable." After this, the gang starts taking all the passengers to their hideout. Once the gang leaves, Brad gets angry at Tony, saying, They took our passengers and you didn't let me go. Let me go. Tony explains to him, there were too many of them. Even if you had gone, you wouldn't have been able to fight such a large group alone. Now, the two of them start moving toward the plane and catch the two goons who were stealing valuable items from it. At gunpoint, Brad asks them, where has your leader taken the passengers? One of them reveals, there's a hideout of ours a little distance from here, and they must have gone there. Meanwhile, Brad's daughter hands over the paper with Brad's written details to the rescue expert, which contains information about the plane, the location, and all the details are written. The rescue expert uses satellite technology to pinpoint the plane's location. They discover that the plane is stranded on an island, and they also learn that a dangerous terrorist group operates on this island. After this, the rescue officer calls the captain of a private army and explains the entire situation, instructing him to head to the island. The captain of the private army agrees, and along with his team, loads a bag full of money and several bags of weapons into a vehicle and prepares to head to the island. Meanwhile, Brad notices that before the terrorists took the passengers, the co-pilot had managed to repair the plane's power system, and Brad sees that the power in the plane has been restored. Seeing this, he becomes very happy. Now, Brad writes a message on his uniform for the incoming private army team and leaves it behind. Then, along with Tony, he sets off toward the place where the gang took all the plane's passengers. Traveling through the jungle, the two of them reach the terrorists' hideout, and both of them get out of the vehicle and secretly infiltrate the place where the goons were intimidating the passengers and recording videos of them to send to their families for ransom money. Meanwhile, the private team sent by the rescue expert arrives at the plane. When they find no one there, the team leader goes inside the plane to check. There, they discover the bodies of two people. These were the two individuals whom the gang leader had instructed to steal valuable items from the plane, but Brad had killed them. The private team's captain also finds the message left by Brad, which provides directions to the terrorist gang's hideout. At the terrorists' hideout, Tony and Brad were quietly observing them, and as soon as they got a chance, they stealthily approached from behind and killed two terrorists. Then, they quietly moved forward and reached the outside of a room. Inside this room, all the passengers were being held captive. Brad wanted to free them, but there were many guards patrolling the area, and Brad didn't have the key to unlock the door key either. After this, they start taking down the guards one by one, and Tony picks up a hammer and kills several guards with it. Brad takes a key from one of the guards and frees the passengers from the room. He tells them, quickly get into the same bus the terrorists used to bring you here, and they all hurriedly board the bus. Just then, Tony comes to Brad and informs him, there's only one way out of here by vehicle, but there are many armed goons standing there who will spot us. Will start firing bullets at us as soon as they see us. When Brad looks at the passengers, he sees that they are all extremely frightened. At this point, Brad makes a decision to put his life at risk and tells Tony, I'll distract all the terrorists there, and you take advantage of the opportunity to get all the passengers out of here. Initially, Tony tries to stop Brad from doing this, saying, if you do that, they'll kill you. But Brad replies, we don't have any other option besides this. Hearing this, Tony agrees and goes along with the plan. Brad steps out and approaches the terrorists. There, he talks to the gang leader saying, I've already informed the authorities for help. A rescue team will be here soon, so let all the passengers go. Hearing this, all the gang members burst out laughing at Brad and start beating him. The gang leader says, how can I just let them go? I don't release anyone without money. Just as they are about to kill Brad, the private rescue team arrives and launches an attack on the terrorists. After a prolonged exchange of gunfire, after killing many of the gang members, they rescue Brad and take him to the bus, escaping from the scene. Meanwhile, the gang leader sees that many of his accomplices, including his younger brother, have been killed. Enraged by this, he swears an oath, declaring that he won't spare a single one of them and will hunt them down and kill them all. He then tells his team, get ready quickly. We'll soon set out to kill these people. In the bus, the captain of the private team informs everyone, we are just a small team of 5 people private team that has come here on a mission to save you, and we are not a rescue team. The actual rescue team will take some more time to arrive. Hearing this, Brad panics and says, we don't have time because the gang will soon come after us and kill us as soon as they see us. But I have an idea. Upon reaching the plane, Brad tells all the passengers the plane's power has been restored. This means the plane can start now and we can leave immediately. So everyone quickly get on the plane because we can't wait for the rescue team. It will take them time to get here, and if we stay, we'll be killed by those terrorists. Hearing this, everyone boards the plane. Meanwhile, Brad starts checking all the plane's systems, and the private team prepares for any incoming threats. Suddenly, the terrorist group arrives and attacks them. Seeing this, the private team engages to stop them, leading to heavy gunfire from both sides. However, the private team had very advanced guns, which is why they managed to kill many of the goons. Brad quickly informs the private team's leader, I'm going to start the plane in the next 5 minutes. so all of you need to board the plane quickly. After this, Brad goes to Tony and thanks him, saying, "You stood by me during such a difficult time." Protecting himself from the gunfire, Brad enters the plane and takes his place in the cockpit, working with his co-pilot to start the plane. Meanwhile, Tony runs out of bullets, and as he searches for more ammunition, Tony checks the private team's bag and finds a bag full of money. But at this moment, Tony ignores the money and takes bullets from another bag, resuming his fight against the terrorists. By this time, Brad has also turned the plane to the right side. The private team's soldiers start boarding the plane one by one, with Tony providing cover fire for them. With the power restored, the radio also starts working. The airline company's owner contacts Brad and says, "I'll guide you to a safe place where you can go." Now, everyone boards the plane, but Tony doesn't. He grabs the bag full of money and starts to flee, because if he returns with them on the plane, the police will arrest him again and put him back in jail. Seeing his accomplices being killed, the gang leader becomes enraged and loses control. He brings a rocket launcher in front of the plane, intending to blow it up in one shot. But at the critical moment, Tony spots him. Quickly, Tony picks up a gun, shoots, and kills the gang leader, saving everyone's lives. Seeing this, Brad is overjoyed with Tony's actions, and Brad, putting in all his effort, successfully manages to take off the plane. Seeing this, Tony feels happy for all the passengers and Brad, and he runs off into the jungle with the bag full of money. Brad flies the plane away from the island, and the airline company's owner informs him about an airport they can head to, which is now quite close to them. Brad steers the plane toward the location provided by the airline owner, but just then, the plane's engine catches fire again, and the plane starts to fall apart. Therefore, Brad once again prepares for an emergency, turns on the warning system, and slowly tries to bring the plane down onto the runway. Finally, after great difficulty, Brad manages to land the plane on the runway, saving everyone's lives. Brad and his co-pilot are overjoyed. Meanwhile, the airline company's owner and his team are also extremely happy. Brad goes to the back to check on the passengers and sees that everyone is safe, which brings relief to his heart. All the passengers standing there start clapping for Brad and thanking him. A short while later, the rescue team arrives for them, and seeing this, all the passengers become happy. Brad sends all the passengers with the rescue team, and finally, breathing a sigh of relief, the captain sits on the plane's stairs and talks to his daughter on a call. With this, the story comes to an end. If you liked the video, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and like the video.